You are now watching the Ball and Beats podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ball and Beats podcast, episode 124. How about that? 124
episodes.
You know, this episode feels really.
This is going to be a good episode.
This is going to be a great episode. And we also have a debut of one of our good friends over here, Mr. Anthony Krushka.
Welcome,
sir.
Anthony.
Welcome in, boss.
Thank you, gentlemen. Glad to be here. It's 124 episodes in. Seems like it's long overdue.
Yes, sir.
Ready to be here.
Absolutely.
For
Let's
sure.
go. You know, I have to summon in one of our good friends as well because, you know, we're starting off this episode, and of course you know where this is going. I think you see some outfit choices up here. But if I could get a close-up on, let's go with camera one here. You see this right here? No. All right. You see this? You see this? There we go.
There we go.
Look at this beautiful thing. And if I could have our good friend Cameron come up here real quick. He's got maybe the one thing we need. You see this? We recycle over here, by the way. Throw the SEC in the trash because the Big Ten has arrived, folks.
The Big Ten rules.
The Big Ten rules college football. It feels great. Spencer, as us diehard Buckeye fans, you know,
baby.
we had our doubts. We said, fire Ryan Day, kick him to the curb.
Yes, we did.
And they went on the
Yeah, we did.
greatest run, 4-game stretch in the history of the sport. How does it feel, man?
You know, man, it feels great to be a national champion. It feels great to see this team. They went through so much adversity, man. And, you know, I told this to one of my buddies, you know, when they won the national championship. This is the greatest redemption story in college football history. Not only did the team redeem themselves, not only did the players redeem themselves, but Ryan Day redeemed himself. He redeemed everything. Buckeye fans were just clowning on this dude. He were so mad. Fire Ryan Day. He can't beat Michigan. Still can't. And they then go on to not only obliterate Knoxville, Tennessee, obliterate all hopes in Eugene, Oregon, not only obliterate Austin, Texas, there's, you know, Longhorns, Shorthorns, they're out of here, and the SEC, by the way. Shout out the Southeastern Conference, by the way. That's 2 back-to-back Big Ten national champions. They beat the Catholic Church. They beat Notre Dame. They beat God. So the Buckeyes are national champions for the first time since 2014, and man, it feels so good. This team had so many opportunities in past years. You know, you think back of 31-0 against Clemson and J.T. Barrett's one of his last years at Ohio State getting blown out by Clemson. Justin Fields throwing that interception in the end zone to Clemson. We lost to Clemson a good amount of times, and then we beat them finally. Getting absolutely boat raced in the national title game against Mac Jones and Devontae Smith and that just juggernaut of an Alabama team. And then Noel Ruggles kicking the ball to Brazil. Because he couldn't hit his mark at all. It feels really good, and I not only do I feel really good for these players, I feel great for Ryan Day. He deserved this, man. He went through so much adversity with this team, losing to Oregon on the last play of the game with that slide by Will Howard, losing that loss. It's still inexcusable. But I'll tell you what. I'll trade a loss to Michigan if it means winning the national title every year because they can kiss our ring because now their ring's old. You guys won last year. We won this year. So Michigan can have their 1 year, but the Buckeyes rule once again. And it's great, absolutely fantastic for this team. And, you know, talk about the players showing up. Jeremiah Smith is the best player in college football already, and he's a true freshman. And he's still got 2 more years. Will Howard had an unbelievable playoff run. Unbelievable. Will Howard was damn near perfect in this playoff run. He did everything for this team, and he did everything for this offense. Shout out Carnell Tate, Emeka Egbuka, this offensive line who had injuries with losing Seth McLaughlin, with losing Simmons for the year. Donovan Jackson moving from guard to tackle, back to guard, back to tackle, and just doing everything. He's going to be a first-round pick, and he deserves every bit of it.
Yep.
This team went through so much adversity, and they deserve all the praise that is coming their way. They went through a lot. At the end of the day, this team went through a lot. We came on here, and I'll be the first to admit it. I'm sorry, Ryan Day. I think all Buckeye fans have to apologize to you at this point. You win a national championship, all the past goes away. Nobody cares. You get a ring, you get a banner, you get a nice shiny golden trophy back that's going to go into the athletic center, back at the Hayes Athletic Center, and you get 2024 marked on Ohio Stadium in the list of national champions. And nobody cares. You lose to Michigan and win the national title. I don't care what Buckeye fans say. I would trade losing to my rival for a national championship in a heartbeat. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares. You're the national champs. You have a ring, and Michigan doesn't.
Since we have a Michigan fan with us on this panel, I'd like to get his thoughts as well and about the Big Ten going back-to-back, both of our teams going back-to-back here with national championships. But, what do you think this Michigan game did for this Ohio State team?
Okay. Yeah, no, it definitely fired you guys up, especially when we tried to come in and put the flag on your O at the center of the field there. Definitely fired you guys up.
Don't do it again. Don't do it again.
And specifically Jack Sawyer.
They might get arrested next time.
Yeah. Yeah, they did try to sign that into law, but did not pass. But
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, no, I'd say specifically like Jack Sawyer definly fired him up.
Yep.
I think that meant a lot to him. But yeah, I mean,
Being a Columbus, Ohio guy, really.
He's Captain Jack. He's the mayor of Ohio. He can say all he wants. I mean, and another thing that this defensive line was a completely different defensive line in this playoffs.
That was.
We've been talking about this defensive line. They've had the talent for years. JT Tuimoloau only showed up against Penn State. We talked about that. And Jack Sawyer, he wasn't great. To be completely honest, he got some pressures, but he was never that 5-star, edge rusher he was supposed to be. He showed up and then some in this playoffs. This entire defensive line, this defense in general, Cody Simon, the linebacking core, and you got to shout out Jim Knowles. That defense was just as good as the offense. This team went out there and went on an absolute run this playoffs, and they deserved it. You can say what they want. And credit Notre Dame. Notre Dame played a really good game. That first drive, 10 minutes off the clock, 18 plays. Riley Leonard played his ass off. This team, Notre Dame, deserved every bit to be in that game. And
Yeah.
I completely believe in Marcus Freeman, and he will bring Notre Dame back. He will win a national championship with Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman is one of the best head coaches in college football, and he's created a great culture there in South Bend.
Yeah. They're also doing it the right way because they get to make $20 million every time they get to go far and not have to spread it out and spread the wealth with a conference. So, but really, to me, for this game, yeah, you have to apologize to Ryan Day. I will say this, though. The, critiques were warranted.
Yep.
It was warranted. You can't lose 4 in a row to Michigan and not have people be on you. Do I think people went a little overboard to where he needed security at his house?
Yes, that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. But, these were the same topics of conversation we were having 5-6 years ago about Kirby Smart in Georgia. It was the same thing. He couldn't get over the Nick Saban hump. Nick Saban was his daddy. You know what I mean? And he finally got over the hump and won back-to-back national championships. Now, in about 2 years, we'll find another coach to have this conversation about. Because everyone's going to look at you differently now that you have a national championship. And got to give Ryan Day credit. But you also got to look back at a lot of these Ohio State teams still and be like, this was the team that got it? Because it's a lot of what-ifs with Ohio State.
The 2019 team was the best team I've ever seen. The best Ohio State team in my lifetime. They had the offensive firepower. They had an amazing defense. Chase Young, Nick Bosa. When he actually played. The defense was phenomenal. Jeff Okuda, and then the offense was led by Justin Fields and an amazing receiving core. Even the 2020 team was very good. They made the national title game, and the 2016 team with J.T. Barrett, with Mike Weber. Ohio State has had great teams, and Ryan Day has had great teams. I didn't know this team had all the talent to win it all, and I picked them to win it all in our bracket. I said if they played pissed off, they would win the national championship. That was all depending on what they did against Tennessee, and they did exactly that against Tennessee. And I had a good amount of faith they would win the national title game, and then they went out and obliterated Oregon. They took care of Texas, and it got shaky in the first quarter, but then they took care of business against Notre Dame. And this team deserves all the credit in the world, and they're national champions, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can say about it.
Yeah. I think now that we're all through and the season's done, we're kind of just recapping everything. How did we feel like this 12-team playoff format went, though? There's obviously tweaks I think that needs to be done, but I thought it was great.
I thought it was good. I think that the seeding needs to change. The first round was not good. There was a ton of blowouts, and I think that you got the best games in the semifinals. The Cotton Bowl, Texas and Ohio State, and then the Orange Bowl with Penn State and Notre Dame. And then the national championship was a game for a little bit, and then Ohio State kind of pulled away, and then Notre Dame came back a little bit, but Ohio State, made the plays to win the game. But the seeding needs to change. I don't agree with Oregon having to play an 8-seed Ohio State in their first round, but in the quarterfinals. It needs to be reseeded. You need to have the seedings change, and you need to have it seeded, 1 through 12, have the lower seed play the highest seed. And technically that did happen this year. Technically the 8 seed was Ohio State. They were the best 8 seed of all time, and they probably will because out of a 12-team playoff, the 8 seed won the national championship.
7 versus 8.
7 versus 8. I think that they need to have some changes made for sure in the seeding. But, with the 12 teams, I thought it was all right. I mean, was there 12 teams that could win the national title? No. I think there probably was maybe 4, 5. But then you had teams like Notre Dame go on a run. I didn't have a ton of faith in Notre Dame, but they went on a run. Give credit to Riley Leonard. Give credit to Marcus Freeman. Give credit to Jeremiah Love. The team fought, and they fought till the final end. They beat a good Georgia team, even without Carson Beck. They beat a feisty Penn State team with a really good defense, and they gave Ohio State a run for the money at the end of the game. So they deserve a lot of credit. But at the end of the day, seeding needs to be changed. The 1 through 4 should not be conference champions. The 1 through 4 should be the top 4 teams in the country. You should have the top 5 conference champions make it, but have it seeded correctly. Like Arizona State and Boise State, you can say what you want. They didn't deserve a first round bye. Boise State should have been like a 7 seed, and you can have Arizona State as like an 8 or a 9, maybe a 10.
I would make the argument that was the best game in the entire bracket was Texas-Arizona State.
It was. It was a very good game. I just don't think that you're gonna want, because Boise, I mean, they were blowouts. Boise State got obliterated in the second half. Penn State made quick work of them in the second half. It was close for a little bit. And that Arizona State team, Texas was beating them bad. Texas was beating them bad in the first half, but it just came down to Texas just lets teams come back into games. Arizona State should have won that game, and but at the end of the day, Texas made the plays to win it. But I think that you're seeing that, I mean, all top 4 seeds lost. Oregon lost, Georgia lost, Boise State lost, and Arizona State lost. I think your 1 through 4 should have been the Big 12, the teams playing in the SEC title game, the teams playing in the Big 10 title game. Oregon, Penn State, and then Texas and Georgia. However you want to sort them. Oregon is probably the 1, Georgia the 2, Texas the 3, and Penn State the 4. And then you seed the rest depending on what the playoff committee thinks.
That's fair. Anthony?
I just want to add to, I mean, the good part about it, and Spencer kind of talked about it, like Notre Dame to be able to go on that run. That's really like the best part about it, I would say, opening it up to more teams. It just gives you a chance to have sort of like a Cinderella story almost, like March Madness. I think that's what I enjoyed the most about it, and I was almost more interested in like the games earlier on. And maybe this is just because I'm a Michigan fan, but I didn't even watch the national championship.
This was a nightmare. This was a nightmare natty for Michigan fans.
Nightmare, literally.
Yeah. But yeah, like definitely, I think there was still some great games, and I think, yeah, there's definitely be some tweaks.
Yes.
I think with the seeding for sure.
What do you think, Logan?
My main tweak: screw the bowl games. We need at-home games. The highest seed should be playing a home game. The home environment is what is a beautiful thing about college football. And, it's hard to win on the road. And to me, that's my biggest takeaway from these first-round games we had seen earlier on is it's just hard to win on the road. And getting that at-home environment in like a semifinal game would be absolutely nuts. Like, imagine being in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Imagine being in a state college, Pennsylvania, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Clemson, South Carolina for a semifinal game.
So what are you going to do with the bowl games?
What do you do with the bowl games? I think you just have to get rid of just the New Year's Six altogether. Not saying they shouldn't be bowl games, but they shouldn't be included in the playoff. To me, the only real one that would make sense is the Rose Bowl because of its history and iconic stuff. Sorry.
I think the semifinals should be bowl games.
Get away from me! There we go. All right.
I think the quarterfinals, I agree. Because, Ohio State won the Cotton Bowl and they won the Rose Bowl on top of the national title.
Yeah.
Notre Dame won the Orange Bowl and they won the Sugar Bowl. You had Penn State win the Fiesta Bowl, and I don't remember the other one.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Like I said.
Oh, Texas won the Peach Bowl. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, I don't think that we need to be having all these bowl games. I think the semifinals would be good. But I think a quarterfinal matchup, having a first round bye and then being home would be a massive advantage for those top 4 teams, for those teams receiving a bye. You look at Oregon, they were the number 1 team in the country. They had a 13-0 record. They won the Big Ten, and they played in the Rose Bowl, which was sort of a home game for them. It was on the West Coast, but it was a neutral site. At the end of the day, it was a neutral site, and they were playing an Ohio State team. I think it'd be really good to have a quarterfinal be a home game. First round is a home game, and so is the quarterfinals. Have the semifinals be bowl games because home field's an advantage in college football. It's a real advantage. In the NFL, it really doesn't matter, but in college football, it means a ton, and we saw that.
Yeah, I agree. At least maybe the first 2 rounds, but I don't know. There's just something about the home field advantage, like we were talking about here in college football. Yeah. But also that just cuts down on travel costs. Like, imagine. Being Oregon, say if you go all the way through, 3 games, you would go to L.A., then you'd go to Dallas, then you'd go to Atlanta. The cost of travel, let alone the tickets for these games, are just awful, massive amounts. And it's like, do people really think they're always going to show up all the time?
And the thing is, you look at the bowl games, I was the Peach Bowl, Texas and Arizona State, there's a lot of empty seats in the second or in the very top. Now, Mercedes-Benz is a huge stadium, but I think home game, I think that'd be a really good idea. And I also, a little bit more on the seating stuff, there needs to be something implemented to where one side of the bracket is the same as the other side. You saw Penn State have the easiest path of anybody to the semifinals. They beat SMU, which at home. SMU's decent, but they won 11 games in an ACC. They didn't beat anybody, and it showed. And they beat Boise State, who, they were 12-1. They had a really good season. They almost beat Oregon, but they were, they only had Ashton Genty. I think there needs to be something to where both sides of the bracket are the same. Because Ohio State went through a really tough portion. They arguably had the greatest run in college football history. They beat 5 or 6 top 10 teams this year, AP teams finishing.
It's a record.
It's a record. They
did need the playoff for it, but it's a record.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's something to be said about them. But at the same time, seeding needs to change. But I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
They need to change the top 4. So
just to bring up this topic, because I know it's going to irritate someone behind camera, might as well bring it up. Talking about this Ohio State team in particular, I won't make the argument that this is the greatest team you've ever seen. They've lost 2 games for a reason. They lost to a 7-5 Michigan team. This is not the greatest team you've ever seen touch the field. But with a team that's that fired up, that angry, and that determined, could they not beat this 2019 LSU team? Could they not? Being that angry, that ferocious, that tenacious.
I saw Davis Warren going to Columbus with 2 interceptions and beat this team. I can't say that. Yes, the way they were playing in the playoffs, I think you have an argument. But, that LSU offense was NFL players. Sorry, not NFL players. NFL superstars galore. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire made it. He didn't
forgetting
do,
about their defense,
He didn't
though,
do
too.
much. Their defense was solid.
They had Derek Stingley, Grant Delpit. They also had
Caleb Chase
linebacker?
on. I mean,
Yep.
they had a really good defense. They had NFL players everywhere in that team, and this Ohio State team is too.
Well, it's going to be 100%.
Do I see any superstars, at least in my opinion, on this Ohio State team?
You're telling me Jeremiah Smith is not a superstar,
Well,
or Caleb
he's-
Downs is not a superstar?
No. In this draft.
In this draft, I think it's a fair argument that they might.
I
not.
think that Jeremiah Smith's going to be the best player in the NFL. Once he comes out, he's going to be nuts. Emeka Egbuka is going to be good. Trayvon Henderson, maybe. He doesn't fumble the ball, but it's really hard to tell. I think Will Howard in the right situation could make things right. But that LSU team was nuts, man. That LSU team was generational. This Ohio State team, talent-wise, is generational as well. I think so. This was one of the best defenses. This was the best defense in college football, and they might be the most experienced college football defense of all time. It was full of 5-year and 4-year players, and then you threw in Caleb Downs, you threw in Igbenuson, you threw in guys that were transfers. I don't know though, man.
You're telling me if they had one shot, they wouldn't win?
No.
The one
You're
thing
telling
I will
me
say,
they wouldn't?
I always go to my grave saying the 2019 Ohio State team would beat the 2019 LSU team. I think that team would have beaten them.
That 2019 team, if they had the chance, I agree.
I think that Ohio State team, but I don't know, man.
It's
hard to tell.
We're getting called crazy offset here. I don't like it because, simply because one team's generational doesn't mean they won't have a slip up along the way. Sometimes.
I'll tell you one thing right now, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. This Ohio State team, the way they played, they'd beat last year's Michigan team.
They would, if they played like this. The
They
problem
played
is
Michigan in
the
the
problem
Natty,
is
they beat Michigan.
They needed to lose to them this year for it to even happen.
You want to know why? Because both of these teams were kind of similar. Both had really elite defenses. Both had decent offenses with a ton of upside, just never got there. But the problem is Ohio State got there. Michigan, in my opinion, never did. They just had the plays to win the games.
Bro.
So Michigan fan, we have
That's
something to
funny.
say about that.
No, I mean not really. I mean we got our ring. I'm gonna just.
You got your
he's
ring.
got-
I'm not even talking about last year. I'm even talking
Oh,
about
you talking
this
about this year too?
Because it's like we almost needed to lose to you guys for us to even find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
They
have
woke
the
a
win.
team up. They
Yeah.
had an all-players meeting after that Ohio State-Michigan game.
Yeah.
And Ryan Day alluded to it many times in the post-game press conference for the Natty. Will Howard talked about it, and Cody Simon talked about it. They needed that. The meeting, not the loss to Michigan, because nobody wants that.
Right.
And all these players, they never beat Michigan. That's something that they'll have to go to their grave to. But they have a ring. I think they'd rather have a ring and a golden trophy than a pair of gold pants.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's.
I think that's true.
It's like I don't know. It's always we kind of talk about it here too at Toledo. With like, would you rather see the regular season success or a win in the tournament?
Well, we don't see either of
or,
that.
So, yeah. Well,
We don't see either.
We
of
don't
that,
see
to be
either
fair.
of that.
Yeah.
It's Toledo. Shout out Jason Candle. No.
yeah. I think you guys. I mean, you definitely earned it. So, and I think you probably wouldn't have won it all without beating us for sure. So,
I don't think we
So,
will.
and I
don't-
okay, so
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Pivoting to another team I want to talk about in college football. I want to talk about Penn State. This Penn State team is returning both their running backs and their quarterback.
And a lot of their
If James
defense.
Franklin doesn't win the national championship next year, do you think he has any chance of being on the hot seat of being fired?
Well, I'll say this
Because this Penn State team, they're going to be damn good next year.
they should be.
They should be maybe the best team in the country. They got a ton of returning players. The only players they're not really returning is Abdul Carter. But they recruit well. They develop well. It's just James Franklin has a problem winning big games.
Yeah.
He won some big games this year. He won 2 playoff games. I mean, those are big games. He probably should have beaten Notre Dame. They should have beaten Notre Dame, in my opinion. Do you think Franklin gets fired, or is there's a hot seat at all, light fire under him if they don't win the Natty next year? Because they're returning a lot of players.
They are returning a lot of players. The problem is they're not returning the one generational guy on their team.
Tyler Warren.
The 2 generational guys on their team. Tyler Warren is a generational tight end, and Abdul Carter is an elite elite pass rusher.
Some guy you want to see on the Browns.
That is, we'll get there at some point. But to me, I think you're right to some extent.
He's been there 9 years, man.
Thing is, I would make the argument Ohio State still could be the favorite in the Big Ten next season. I know, Julian Sands more than likely QB1.
You have Jeremiah Smith.
You are returning Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, your two best players.
Maybe the two best offensive and defensive players in the country. At least one of them.
So you do need to fix up some stuff. You got you now know you have depth on the offensive line. You had to see it this year.
Yep.
And you got some guys. You got Max Clare, Purdue tight end, the only thing Purdue had all season coming in to be tight end at Ohio State. You got other pieces. You still have Jordan Matthews Jr. and that secondary coming back. You still have
Sonny Styles
other
might
guys
come back.
developing. Sonny
Igbenogson
Styles,
might come
C.J.
back.
Hicks, if he can develop to be that linebacker we all expect him to be.
Carnell Tate needs to stay, though.
He does need to stay. There are the rumors of transfer portal with Carnell Tate. I don't buy it.
I don't think he will.
But Penn State, they're returning everybody besides those two guys.
The one argument I will make is they need to get a receiver in the transfer portal.
They don't have that position locked up at all. I mean, they literally completed 0 catches for 0
They
yards
need to
against
go get
Notre
a
Dame.
receiver.
So, the thing is with them, I mean, they're always built. They're kind of like Iowa. They're like Iowa, in my opinion.
They have
just a better,
talented defense.
Just a little bit better offense. But Drew Aller, man, there were all the rumors out there talking about, if he has a good playoff, he could go to the draft. No, he was never that guy.
I'm always told Drew Aller is so good. Drew Aller's this, Drew Aller's that. And then I watch Drew Aller, and he's terrible. He was awful in that Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
Every time I watch Drew Aller, he has a bad game. But I'm told he's good. He has all this talent. He's a really good quarterback. He's under a right system under James Franklin. And then he plays in a big game. He can't do anything against Ohio State. He can't do anything against Michigan. And they got a massive game against Notre Dame. He throws the worst interception I've ever seen in my life. He's rolling out to his left. He throws it towards the middle of the field across his body to the right. And that's one of the worst throws or worst plays I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it definitely makes you scratch your head a little bit, watching Drew Aller be a quarterback and the decisions he makes from time to time. I don't know. To me, James Franklin is the most perfectly rated head coach because he wins when he's supposed to and he loses when he's supposed to. That's the thing. But is it good enough at Penn State? They do have the history that's all pretty much been vacated, to be honest. But they are a historical program. They've had the pedigree before, mostly as an independent as well.
I mean, their last natty was in the 80s, I think.
You want to talk about that? That's our little brother. That's our little brother. We can't talk about the other one.
Michigan State's everyone's little brother.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, they have denied Dennis Sutton coming back. They have Singleton and Katron Allen both returning next season. They should be able to be really good and should make the playoff.
They'll be 10-2, 11-1.
Yeah,
they play in Columbus next year.
They'll lose in Columbus. Yeah. We already know. And if they
play Oregon at home.
They play Oregon at home. They might win that. If they play Michigan next season, they're going to lose to them, though.
That should be the whiteout game. That better be the whiteout game.
That would be an
amazing
whiteout
game.
We know it's going to be Big Noon kickoff, but that's
probably.
Okay.
Shout out Joel Klatt.
I got one more topic before we get into our NFL discussion and other discussions.
I forgot about the NFL.
With our little opening segment we saw the SEC go in the trash bin earlier. The Big Ten has finally gone back-to-back in a national championship for the first time in 82 years. 82 years. And you've had three Big Ten teams.
Team to do that was Michigan State, right? Back-to-back?
I think so. We're talking like 1940s. It's literally generational, and it's historic because the SEC has dominated this sport for the longest, not really for the longest time, but for the last 20, 25 years, it's been the SEC.
Yep.
It just means more down south. We've seen in this modern day of NIL transfer portal that these guys that are 5 stars that can develop leave the SEC early and play somewhere else. And I think in a lot of ways it's evened out the sport of college football and evened out college athletics. That doesn't mean it isn't having its own negatives on the sport, because you see guys that can just, say, oh, I didn't get the money I was promised after week 3. I'm going to hit the portal. Shout out Matthew Sluka. James Madison, Duke quarterback now, by the way. I bet you guys didn't even know he's now at James Madison. But what I'm saying is the Big Ten is the best conference now because it's the true conference of collegiate athletics. It's got arguably the most historic programs, sports-wise in general, most championships as a conference, I believe, across the board. If you went with adding USC and UCLA into the conference at all sports, the Big Ten's here to stay, folks. I'm not saying that the SEC is going to fall off. The SEC might be deeper as a conference from top to bottom. But I think the best teams this year were the top of the Big Ten. And there's no argument. The SEC went 1-5 against the Big Ten in bowl games this season.
Yeah, the SEC.
Even you guys beat Alabama. It felt great to watch that
bro.
personally. I'm going to go out and say this. I don't know how you feel, but I know how Michigan fans feel about this topic. But me as a Buckeye fan, I'd much rather watch Michigan win against an SEC team.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. I love seeing the SEC lose, and I love seeing the SEC lose to Big Ten teams. I don't care if it's Michigan, Michigan State, even my team. I'd love seeing Ohio State win or beat SEC teams, and they beat two. They beat Tennessee and they beat Texas.
People may say that's a little hypocritical because the SEC always cheers about it. It just means more.
You'd
but
never ever
back 'em
see
up.
that in the Big Ten. You'd never see that in the Big Ten. That is so stupid. And the thing about that thing is like that was cool when Nick Saban was there. Now that Nick Saban's gone, the SEC. Their first year without Saban, yikes. Their SEC champion was terrible. Georgia was terrible in their bowl game. And I know they didn't have Carson Beck. Even if they had Carson Beck, they wouldn't have won it all. Beck didn't play good at all this season. He had an interceptions problem.
He's now at your favorite school, your other favorite school.
Yeah, he's at the U. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's doing the 1-year redemption plan that Cam Ward did last year. He'll be the Browns quarterback next year once he gets when the Browns get the number 1 pick.
We'll talk about that later. Right.
But I agree. The SEC might have the history of owning college football, but in the here and now, it's the Big Ten. Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan's gonna get better. I don't think they're gonna be 8-5. I think Bryce Underwood's gonna be good for him.
Javen Davis will be.
I don't know about Indiana. I think Indiana was kind of a flash in the pan. Kurt Cignetti was a cool story, but I don't think you can really win at Indiana. But maybe I'm proven wrong. In Penn State, those were the best teams. Sorry, Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State were the best teams in college football this year. They weren't the most talented. I will go to my grave saying Ohio State and Texas had the most talent. Texas was one of the most talented teams. They just didn't perform like it.
They never played their best.
That's the Steve Sarkisian special. He's not going to perform up to expectations, and that's just Texas. But the thing is the Big Ten is the class of college football right now. They have the best teams. You get that when you have back-to-back national champions. You have that when you have the best teams in the nation. And the best SEC teams, Georgia, they didn't win a game. Texas, they lost to a Big Ten team. Alabama lost to a Big Ten team. Tennessee lost to a Big Ten team. You see the trend I'm going here? They're all losing to Midwestern teams. They're all losing to the Midwest. We can count Oregon at least because they're a part of it. But real football is played in the Midwest. It don't mean more down there anymore. It means more up here.
It's always meant more up here. The birthplace of football. Canton, Ohio, folks. Just got to say that. And also, if you really want to go there.
But keep cheering on your conference. You guys got college basketball at least.
That's true. It's done with like full 180.
Yeah.
They're at a college basketball conference now. Stick to that. What's your thoughts real quick before we move on?
I think that's it. I think Spencer, you guys have definitely covered it. The Big Ten, we're definitely running it for sure. I don't think there's anything else to say.
We're the big boys.
Sure, it's not the MAC. Shout out NIU.
I thought it was personally. I thought it was Florida International Conference USA. But that's
shout out
just me.
Pitbull Stadium.
Shout out Pitbull Stadium. Real quick before we pivot on to our NFL talk, I just need to take a sip of B&B water real quick. All right.
Where can you get that water at, Logan?
You can get that water at your nearest tap.
Okay.
And you guys should go follow us on Instagram and our TikTok. And you could also watch us on Spotify, but you're already watching on YouTube as well anyway. But you might as well watch on both. Cam, I'm going to need yourself again here.
I knew
NFL topics, right?
I knew it.
We're moving on to the NFL.
I promise. I'm not going to have this done. I promise.
Oh, shoot.
So there's this one team in the NFC that this year was finally their year. If I could get a close-up here on camera 1 real quick. This was their year, right? their year to finally win it all. Ben Johnson's the greatest offensive coordinator we've ever seen. Aaron Glenn and that absolutely torn to shreds defense.
Say that again.
Torn to shreds defense.
How many players and I are in that defense,
You had
Logan?
16.
You want me to tell you?
16.
No, we had 18.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
I
had 2 more.
shortballed you there.
Yeah.
But you see this right here? It was their season to finally do it. And you know what they did? They threw it in the trash because Jaden Daniels, and my preseason take is maybe the greatest take I've ever had in my life. All right, Spencer, your thoughts?
I hate you so much. I knew you were going to do this. Yeah. Jane Daniels came in and basically bent us over. I ain't got really much else to say, dude. It went nothing to what I thought. You know, the Lions' defensive injuries, you know, they caught up to him. You know, when Zeke Turner is your starting linebacker, dude, that was a Menards person just about 2 weeks ago. You had a bunch of IKEA workers back playing corner because Arnold got hurt, and I had Kendall Vildor once again playing corner in the playoffs.
And arguably your best defensive player against Washington on Saturday.
No, that was Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, which the safety position was the only healthy position this entire year. Kirby and Brian Branch were phenomenal this year. The best safety duo in the league. But the problem is everybody else was hurt. The defensive line was terrible. We got no pressure on the Commanders' offensive line. Even with their starting right guard, was it Cosme?
Yep.
Cosme, he tore his ACL. He's out for the remainder of the playoffs. We couldn't get any pressure on him. And Jaden Daniels, this dude is not a rookie, man. He's not. He is something else. And I want Washington to win because I don't like the Eagles. But man, they are the Commanders are such a fun team to watch. They really are. And while they just bullied my team, and the main thing I take away is the Commanders played Detroit's style of ball.
Built ass.
No, not BTA, because it wasn't a blowout. It was close.
Offensively.
Yeah, offensively.
Well, yeah,
The Commanders
I think we got two
should not
stops on
be-
defense.
yeah.
We got one at the start of both started because they went on at 4th down the beginning of the game, and that they had
They had Mariota. in there.
Mariota.
Yeah.
They got 2 Heisman winners on their team. They had Mariota just like do something stupid and just lose the ball basically, and lose it on 4th down, and then they stopped him in the start of the second half. But Jared Goff played a terrible game. Goff was awful. The offensive line was awful. You had 5 turnovers. You're not, I know. We won a game earlier this season with 5 turnovers.
This was the year.
You
went farther last year. What happened, buddy?
Okay, okay. You are a Browns fan. You belong. Where's that? Bring me that recycling bin. Come here. Bring me that recycling bin.
here.
I need to see it. I need to see it.
Come here.
You see this recycling bin? This is where the Browns have lived since they've left for Baltimore. You want to know what Baltimore has done since they've left Cleveland? Literally everything. They've won divisions. They've won Super Bowls. They've won everything. They beat you guys every year.
I'm a fan of the sport, I'm a
You're
fan of the sport.
The Cleveland Browns will forever and always live in this trash can. And there's so many quarterbacks coming out of here because this team can never choose a quarterback. Deshaun Watson was a bust. He's the worst contract of all time.
There's a better Deshaun.
And they're
His
just
name
going to
is
keep
Deshaun Kaiser.
pulling him out and wishing that maybe Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward is the answer. Yeah, sure. Enjoy 4-13 next year and enjoy drafting Carson Beck because the Browns will never, ever do anything because they are the Cleveland Browns. And as long as they stay in Cleveland, they will never win. They will never win a division. They will never win the AFC. They will never win a Super Bowl. And they will always be little brother to everybody.
I'm literally not disputing anything you have to say about my Cleveland Browns. We're here talking about
The Los
best
Angeles
team
Chargers.
you've had. We're talking about the best team you've had in your team's history. They one and done, just like they were. Cooper
You want to know what the
Flagg
best
this
part
year
is?
at Duke.
15-2 is a dream in Cleveland, and it will never come true. And I know my team choked.
That's why we stay
You know what
dreaming.
the best part about it is? Our Super Bowl window is still open. Our Super Bowl window is still open. It is. You
Don't laugh. Don't laugh.
You
Don't
can say
laugh.
what you want. all of our talent, all of our great players are young. They're still on their rookie deals, or we have such a young roster. All pros. We have 6 all pros on this team. We have, Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, phenomenal year. Sam Laporta. You have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs is one of the best running backs in football, by the way.
Yeah.
And then you have a defense who was completely decimated this year. You're going to get Aiden Hutchinson back. You're going to get Aleem McNeil back. You're going to get Derek Barnes back. Anzalone's going to be healthy. You're going to get all your backups back.
Let me hear from the other Lions fan real quick, just so.
I think, Cameron, not to make you come up here again, but if you want to pull that.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you want to pull that trash can up here.
Yep.
I think it's needed here. It might be a little bit of an overreaction here from Logan McCrory. I'm going to do this for you. Let me make sure.
Thank you, sir.
Hopefully this is, that's the Lions right there. Is it? Yeah. We'll leave the SEC in there, but the Lions, they have a seat at the table here. They have a seat at the table. Come on now. I think it's a little bit of an
We should have printed
overreaction.
a Browns logo, and we should have actually thrown it in a trash can and not a recycle bin, because they're not recycle. They're trash.
That's fine. That's fine.
And here's the thing. I get it. I picked the Lions to win the Super Bowl. I give full credit to the Washington Commanders. They completely deserve to win that game. Jaden Daniels is maybe the best quarterback in his conference already. Best quarterback in the conference. He honestly might be. Daniels is different, man. And that Commanders team, there's not a whole lot of teams that I'd feel good about, but the Commanders, I mean, with everything that happened with Dan Snyder.
Such a feel-good story.
It is a feel-good story. And that's why sure, I was disappointed, man. I had my fair share of drinks on that Saturday night. But
I'm not going to lie, they're script writers this year for the NFL. We're in their bag making the Lions fans feel like it was finally
here's the
their year.
thing.
It was just glorious.
We still own the NFC North. We went 6-0 in the division. Packers, Vikings fans, and Bears fans especially. Have fun with Ben Johnson, because that press conference scared me. He looked like a Dan Campbell wannabe.
Why do you look like Adam Gase a little bit? Am I tripping? Does he not look like he's related to Adam Gase?
Hey, man.
I think they might do similar substances off the field.
Yeah, and credit to him and credit to Aaron Glenn. Thank you, Aaron Glenn, for the 2 third-round draft picks on consecutive years. I appreciate that. Losing Ben Johnson does hurt. It does. He was the best offensive coordinator in the league, and he can go beat the Bears. The Bears as an organization are still a failure, so I have no faith in them of doing anything. The Bears own them, the Lions own them, and the Vikings own them. They're little brother to
Even
everybody.
the Bears own the Bears. That's how you know they suck.
The Bears are terrible, and they always will be. And Caleb Williams can go. You can sell me on Caleb Williams. He had a really good rookie year. They still went 5-12. You can say what they want. They're owned by everybody in the North. The Lions are here to stay, though, and anybody that says their Super Bowl window is closed is ridiculous. They have the best O-line in football. They have a really, really good defense that's young when it's healthy. And they still have the best offensive pieces in football. The Eagles maybe have a little bit of it better because, they have a mobile quarterback, and Goff is not mobile. But when you have 5 turnovers, you're not going to win many games. They had a terrible game terrible choice to have a terrible game. Simple as that. And at the end of the day, Cleveland will always be watching the playoffs from home, and even if they win a wild card game, they'll lose to Kansas City in the divisional round by 5 points because even the NFL doesn't want to see the Browns do good.
Why would they? I mean, shout out Bottlegate. We all know about Bottlegate, but we're not here talking about the Cleveland Browns because they're irrelevant. I'm
glad you can admit that.
I can admit we're completely irrelevant with any good discussions.
So only good teams can trash talk good teams.
I'm a fan of football.
My team,
I am a fan of the sport of football, so I can talk about anything I want to. And I'm going to talk about why this Detroit Lions team, the greatest team in the history of its franchise, completely, we might have to add a bleep after this. Just kidding. I'm not going to do that to us. They crapped the bed big time. It's okay.
They had a terrible,
it's
terrible
right.
choice to have a terrible game. It's as simple as that. When your defense gives up 45 points, but if you think about it, can you name their linebackers that were playing? Not name Alex Anzalone.
No.
Exactly. Can you name their corners? Terrion Arnold was hurt.
I mean, I can name
Kendall
guys that didn't
Vildor
play.
And
I can name guys that didn't play. Carlton Davis definitely didn't play.
All right. Yeah, exactly. They were throwing out IKEA workers and Kroger workers. Shout out Kroger workers.
Will Howard and Jack Sawyer were just Raising Cane's guys not too long ago either.
Jack
so.
Sawyer's going to be a great Detroit Lion opposite of Aiden Hutchinson next year. I'm not worried, though. I really am not. Brad Holmes has done great in the draft. Dan Campbell's proven he's a culture guy. He is a winner.
Professional yapper. That's what it says underneath there.
Professional yapper. Yeah, you know what? Hey, man. But I'm not worried. We'll be all right. We'll be good next year.
No,
the
you'll
NFC
be
North
great.
is going to be really good once
Actually,
again.
I'm going to steal this
Shout
from-
out the North for not winning one playoff game, by the way, after
For being
having
the greatest division.
regular season as a division ever.
Yeah, I'm going to say this from one of our good friends. They're going 20-0 next season. They're not losing. Super Bowl 60
Have you seen
champions.
the Lions' road schedule next year?
Super Bowl 60 champs.
Dude, it's nuts.
It's tough.
They go on the
It's
road to Kansas City. They go on the road to Philadelphia, to Washington, to the Rams, to the Bengals, to the Ravens, and then to the entire NFC North.
I wish Aaron was here right now to have this conversation. This would be beautiful.
That's fine. I'd say I'm 2-0 against you guys.
That's true.
What is he going to say? Oh, the Packers have a Super Bowl. No, go dust off your trophy from, 13, 14 years ago.
I thought you were going to say like 13 or 14 BC.
Yeah.
But
They did win Super Bowl one.
let's
And
get
two.
on to actual relevant teams in this playoff left. How about that Bills Ravens game the other night, huh?
It's a great game.
Excellent game.
Good for Josh Allen.
Good for Josh Allen.
Bad
for
for
Lamar
Mark
Jackson.
Andrews.
Not bad for Lamar Jackson. Bad for Mark Andrews.
Bad for Mark
Bad
Andrews.
for Mark
Yeah,
Andrews.
Lamar didn't have a good game either.
He didn't, but he got his team in position to win.
Yeah, he
and
did.
Mark Andrews, he dropped the ball.
Andrews
Literally and
has had
figuratively.
such an up and down year.
He has.
He's looked good at times, but he I think age is getting to him.
It is.
Because that Baltimore team, especially, they didn't have Zay Flowers in that game, right?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they
Yeah.
had Zay Flowers in that game.
Well,
And
if we don't remember, he was a non-factor either way.
exactly. Lamar had a bad game. He turned the ball over in the first quarter. He had an interception. He didn't have a great game, and neither did Josh Allen. Josh Allen threw for 140 yards. I mean, it was something like he was non-existent. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, dude. The Bills won, and that's going to come down to that 2-point conversion that Mark Andrews had, and he dropped it. Mark Andrews had plenty of other drops in that game.
I saw the fumble.
But it was going to be Buffalo versus Kansas City. You just know it. It was always going to be the bit. Nobody wants to see Ravens Chiefs. Nobody wants to see Ravens Chiefs. Everyone wants to see Bills versus Chiefs. And I'm telling you right now,
The Chiefs are obviously going to win this game.
Buffalo's going to do it. The Bills are
Are
going to
they?
win.
They should.
The Bills are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs because one, I'm tired of Mahomes and I'm tired of everybody. I'm not. You know, what, I'm not going to say that, but I'm tired of everybody being very friendly with Patrick Mahomes. Every media outlet just loves this guy, and he's a very good player. He might go down as the greatest quarterback of all time.
Well,
He didn't have a good year.
here's a
The
guy.
Chiefs were the most overrated 15-2. No, I can't say that. The Chiefs were the most overrated 15 win in the AFC, and they barely won games. They're gonna lose. They lost to the Bills in the regular season by a lot. They're gonna lose to the Bills at home. Josh Allen's gonna get it done.
Well, since we're talking about the Chiefs and that whole conundrum in Arrowhead on the weekend, and Houston did shoot themselves in the foot in that game, but there's just a lot of ticky-tack things that just no
What
other
else do
team
you
would
expect?
get.
What do you expect?
What do I expect? I expect
You're not gonna get fair officiating.
I expect
the
everyone to
Chiefs.
get equal and fair opportunities in the
You're a
football
Browns
field.
fan. You know that's not how it works.
I did watch us against Washington have my player recover a fumble, holding it in the ref's face, and they did give the ball to Washington before. So yeah, I do recall that. But
Yeah, and I saw I saw, but trust me, as Lions and Browns fans saw, a phantom face mask call, and then Aaron Rodgers was a Hail Mary to win the game. I've been there too. But this is the Chiefs. Joe Mixon said it in his post-game press conference. We know what we were getting ourselves into. See, even C.J. Stroud, the most humble dude I've ever met. He always takes accountability. He's the most humble dude in the world.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud even said it. That's what you got to face in Kansas City. They have the referees on their side. The NFL wants the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The NFL wants a three-peat because they know fans are going to watch it because they hate it. Fans are going to want to watch it because they hate it. And
This guy's
people will
spitting right
watch
now.
Patrick Mahomes. They will because he's the greatest. He's going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. I think he's going to get past Brady. I mean, but the thing is, you see it. The Chiefs get every call. They get every break. They get everything. That's how this stuff works.
When all else fails, throw the flag.
Exactly. You saw this as a Browns fan a few years ago in Kansas City in the divisional round.
You don't need to.
That
you do
helmet
not
to
need to
helmet and that
remind me.
fumble.
Please don't remind me. Just.
That's for.
I'm a
throwing
fan
the
of
Lions
football.
logo
I'm
on
a
the-
fan
in
of
the trash
football.
or
I just
the
got to keep
recycling.
reminding you all this.
But I'm telling you, the Chiefs, the NFL wants this. I don't think the Chiefs win. I think the Bills are going to win if you had to ask me to bet. But it's what Kansas City is. They get every call, and every player understands this. It's because of Mahomes. And don't even think about sacking Mahomes because you'll get kicked out of the league. You'll get a fine of $100,000 if you sack Patrick Mahomes, and you'll get like a 10-game suspension. You'll be out.
My favorite is when they call first down, touchdown, and Chiefs win by 50 points. All hail Patrick Mahomes. That's my favorite call of every game. Because
After a
every
face
game,
mask.
every game ends early.
you
notice
that's
that?
if you grab
Every
Patrick
Chiefs
Mahomes' face
game
mask.
ends like 10 minutes after it starts because they give them the automatic win every time. But
It's an arrowhead.
even D'Amico Ryans was talking in the media about
That's how
the
it
calls.
works. Everybody in the NFL knows.
Everybody. They were all.
They get every
it's
break.
obvious.
And I don't care if it sounds like we're whining. Go to every player. Go to every single player who's ever played the Chiefs in the past 5-6 years. It's been like this. The Chiefs get every break. They get every single break. And it continues, especially at home. Don't even think about being the Chiefs at home. I mean, the Lions did it last year. That's just because Kadarius Toney is one of the worst players of all time. He is.
Hey, he was on the Browns practice squad this season.
Well, that's why he's one of the worst players of all time. But that's just how Kansas City is. That's what the NFL is. They want to see Patrick Mahomes. They want to see him succeed. They want to see him keep winning Super Bowls because he'll get up to Brady, and then they want to see this. So that's how it is, unfortunately.
If Spencer doesn't make it, guys, you know why. We're just
Yeah,
you know why.
You
This
know
pod right here.
exactly.
If he's not here next week, you know why.
Yeah,
The
because
NFL
Roger Goodell sent out
Roger
a
Goodell.
Roger Goodell's going to take me away for a very long time.
Chris Collinsworth, he's gonna come out here and pack you up. He's gonna pack
Exactly.
you up.
Oh, who's this guy talking crap about Patrick Mahomes?
But no, I'll agree too. I think I'm going with the Bills for sure, and not. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say for sure, but I think we all want to see the Bills.
We want to see the Bills.
Bills
but
and Commanders
Yeah,
would
Bills and
feed
Commanders
would
would
feed
be
fam.
awesome.
I have to go Chiefs though because there's just no shot. There is no shot Patrick Mahomes loses an Arrowhead. It's impossible. And Josh Allen is the biggest choke artist, and the Buffalo Bills are the biggest choke artist since the Phillip Rivers Chargers. But
Well, Philip Rivers never did anything in L.A.
that's what I'm
sorry,
saying.
San Diego.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at.
Like they never did anything. They
That's
never
exactly
got into
what
the
I'm
playoffs,
saying.
Like anything deep playoff.
I don't know how you can have the number one offense, number one defense, and still miss the playoffs.
2011. Yikes.
But this Bills team,
Shout out Antonio Gates.
they can't get over the hump. They just can't.
They're
Some
gonna get
teams
over the
can't. You just watch the college team do it. Problem is this NFL team can't. So
NFC side, who you guys got? Eagles or Commanders?
Saquon Barkley's tough, man. He is elite. He's the best running back talent-wise in a long time.
Good job, Giants. Good job.
Good job.
Yeah,
Good job paying
Real
Daniel
good
Jones.
job,
Messed
Giants.
that up.
Pay Daniel Jones.
We've only been
Let-
talking about that for 2 years on this pod about
Let Xavier McKinney, you're
just-
one of the best safeties in the league, and let Saquon Barkley, who's the best running back in the league now, just let him go. You could pay Saquon $16 million a year. He wouldn't be.
Do we
worth
get
it.
Chiefs Eagles again though? Is
Yep.
my real question.
That's what the NFL wants.
probably.
You think the
Most
NFL
likely.
wants a
Talent-wise-
rookie quarterback in there?
I want to pick Commander so bad simply because of my preseason take, but I
It'd be that would be up there with my Washington Huskies pick to make a run, and they went on to go to the national championship.
there's something in
against
common
Michigan.
there, right? I have to
Washington
do
and
it.
Washington.
Washington, they're gonna win it. It's gonna be Chiefs, Commanders, Commander
That
in
would
Chief.
be such a
if you know what
weird
I'm saying.
Super Bowl.
Commanders in Chief, knee slapper. No, but for real, it's the Eagles because they're just that good. Sorry, Jaden Daniels, I love you.
Jaden Daniels. So let's just do a hypothetical real quick. If Jaden Daniels wins the Super Bowl,
Yes.
is that the greatest rookie season of all time?
It's never a rookie has never been. It is. It already is. It already is.
What
a rookie
does
has
that
never
mean?
gotten to the
I mean,
conference.
He
finals.
wins the Super Bowl.
If they make the Super Bowl,
Is he the
it's
best?
if he
Is he the best quarterback in the NFL at this point? Like
That's what
as
I'm
a
saying.
rookie, you win a Super
You're
Bowl.
gonna turn on ESPN and it's gonna be.
Little
like,
did you
that's
know,
gonna be the
Jane
talk.
Daniels is actually going to go on a 10-year
watch.
Super Bowl
Sports
streak.
Center the next day after the Super Bowl is going to be like, how does this affect Patrick Mahomes' legacy? Just like it's, they're going to talk about Mahomes and be like, man, Mahomes got cheated on that call.
Oh, yeah.
I can already hear
All-
First Take now.
all
Like,
we
Nick
need-
Wright and first
Nick
things
Wright.
first.
Definitely
I can't
Nick
wait
Wright.
for that. Yeah.
I can't wait for Nick Wright to have Tony Romo and Chris Collinsworth as guests on his show.
Just to talk about Patrick Mahomes
just
for 2
Patrick
hours.
Mahomes the whole time.
When Patrick Mahomes was born, do you think he was as mobile as he is now?
Yes, I do. I do.
Was he throwing a football 70 yards when he was a baby?
I mean, his father did play baseball.
yeah, he did.
More hypotheticals. Let's go with these.
Mahomes
questions.
got, Patrick Mahomes got drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the MLB. He did. Like the 11th or 12th round in 2014, I think.
Well, he obviously chose the wrong sport.
Yeah, he did. It's all right. The Tigers wouldn't pay him anyway. Let him go to the Dodgers just like everyone else.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. That's what's gonna happen.
What I want is Commanders-Bills, but what it's going to be is Chiefs versus Eagles.
This is what I'm gonna give you. Ready? Ready? This is what I'm gonna give you.
He's gonna say Bills, Eagles.
Jaden Daniels injured.
Why?
Marcus
Mariota steps up. He has his Nick Foles moment, bro. Come on now.
He's
Marcus Mariota comeback season alert.
2014
How about it?
Oregon.
How about it?
He's reverting back to his form.
Or we have another conspiracy. Whatever company that made up the virtual reality system that Jaden Daniels is working with,
Jaden Daniels is a robot.
they paid off Roger Goodell, bro,
Ooh, there you go.
just for some advertisement for
Here's
the
what's
VR.
really going to happen. They're going to say that Jaden Daniels is actually a robot and that the Commanders cheated, and they're going to put the Lions in the spot of the Commanders because
they
the
can't
Commanders
even because
are-
they didn't get there. They ain't get. They ain't
No,
get
the
NFC
Commanders
championship.
cheated last week, so they're going to replace the Lions with the Commanders, and the Lions will go on and win the Super Bowl.
You know what? Where's Space Jam at when I need
Jamison
it?
Williams touchdown
Oh,
pass.
that's such a
Jameson,
For the win.
Yeah, what are you doing having Jamison Williams throw a football?
dumb people do dumb things from time to time, but that's okay. The Detroit Lions are a dumb franchise. It's all right to say.
I already said what I said. You can go back and rewind the video of me in the trash can. Sorry, the recycling
Hold on,
can.
roll it again. No, I was kidding. Yeah, let's go Super Bowl. No,
Quickly, we doing...
look at that. Look
Okay,
at
so
that.
who's
You see
winning the
that?
Super Bowl?
Commanders
winning it?
Chiefs.
I mean, Chiefs,
what I
right?
got.
They can't.
All
They
right,
can't
It's gonna be
lose.
Chiefs.
Yep.
It's gonna be Chiefs.
Chiefs
Chiefs.
can't lose.
There's going to be a phantom PI call, just like the last time.
On Quinyon Mitchell.
On Quinyon Mitchell.
On Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon
He's gonna get a
Mitchell
pick when
is-
he had nobody on him.
And
It was a wide open catch.
They're going to call for automatic Chiefs win. Quinyon Mitchell is disqualified from the league, goes back to Toledo for his senior season.
All right, we'll take that. I think Toledo
Toledo will
would
go
definitely
7-5.
be all right with that. Let's pivot real quick to a little bit of baseball talk.
Finally!
I know you want to talk a little
It's
bit about the
always
Dodgers.
baseball season, ain't that right, Aaron?
I know you want to talk a little bit about the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Los Angeles Dodgers have a pretty good team. They just got off winning the World Series. They spent $1 billion last offseason getting Yamamoto and Ohtani. Now, they deferred all that money like 20 years down the road, so the Dodgers will be bad in like 10 years because they'll be owing like $50, $60 million a year to a player who's retired. But then they just got another Japanese pitcher, 23-year-old Roki Sasaki. He's very good. He's a very good Japanese pitcher. They're paying all these dudes all this money. Freddie Freeman, shout out old Atlanta Brave. Mookie Betts. I mean, they got all these players under millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars actually. They've spent way over $1 billion. Are the Dodgers ruining baseball?
I think what's ruining baseball is no salary cap because it's making it so unequal for the rest of the league besides the Dodgers and the Yankees, the Mets, even though they always choke anyway, and the other big market teams. I mean, it's way too hard for all these other teams to even really have a true chance all the time. They have to develop in their farm system. That's what's going to have to happen. Otherwise, I mean, not otherwise. It's always been that way.
Yeah. I mean,
always
look
been that
at
way,
a team like the Cleveland Guardians last year. Cleveland has developed all their talent through their system, and they had Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez, obviously, who's been there for a long time, and Andres Jimenez, who had to get got traded. My big thing is these small market teams are never going to beat the big market teams in the postseason. The Yankees, the Dodgers, I mean, the Padres are a big market now. They used to be smaller market. Boston at a time, they still are paying a lot of money, but Boston just had a down year. All these teams are gonna be, the ones in the World Series. You're never gonna see a 2016 World Series ever again, Cleveland versus Chicago. Even then, Chicago's kind of become a bigger market and spending a lot of money. But I want to say this. A salary cap's a good idea. My biggest thing is I think there should be a cap floor and a cap floor and a cap ceiling. Because you got some teams like the Rays spending pennies on players. They finally paid one player, and then he did some yikes. Not great. Wander Franco, never play again. Now they're playing in the Yankees spring training facility, so that's going to be embarrassing for a year.
He'll be the home run leader in the prison league.
Yes, he will.
Big time.
Yeah. So I think there should be a cap floor because you got teams like Tampa Bay. You got teams like Kansas City finally paid one player, but the rest of their players are like pennies on the dollar. I'm gonna throw my Tigers in there because their owner is. I'm not gonna say that. I don't want to get canceled.
Get canceled.
No,
do it.
I got a ton of thoughts about Chris Ilitch, but I'm not gonna get to that.
Clickbait. We get canceled.
Pittsburgh, another one. Paul Skeens, build around him. They have no offense.
Oh.
The problem is these teams, they're either super cheap or they just spend all their money, and it all depends on the owners. There is no salary cap in baseball; it goes off payroll. You can spend as much money as you want. It's just based off on the owners. But there's super cheap owners like the Tigers, and there's super owners who will just throw money at everything, like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Padres from time to time. If you have a salary cap floor and a ceiling, I think half the league's owners would actually leave and sell the team because they don't want to spend any money on their baseball teams. They'd rather just watching, just people go see a 74 and 88 Detroit Tigers team every year who finally had one good year, and next year is going to be bad because they didn't spend the money on a third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got teams like the Dodgers who, if they lose a single series this year, it's a failure. They don't win the next 5 World Series, it's a failure. The Dodgers have the best team in baseball by a large margin. They have the best pitching staff.
If they lose a game, it should be a failure.
Exactly. And Shohei Ohtani's going to pitch next year. The rotation's going to include Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow, Roki Sasaki. They have an insane pitching staff. Kirby Yates, who's one of the best closers in baseball. And now they have an offense who is still very good with Freddie Freeman, with Shohei Ohtani, with Mookie Betts, with Will Smith.
Hopefully Chris Rock's not on this rotation
either. Baseball and Rob Manfred need to get together and have a salary cap floor and ceiling, or else we're going to have a lockout year. It might be a few years down the road. I think the contract ends in 26 or 27. There's going to be a lockout. Because then you're going to have the Dodgers spending billions of dollars, and you're going to have the Pittsburgh Pirates who are going off rookie contracts, and hopefully Paul Skeens can win us 30 games a year like Cy Young did a long time ago and have 2 runs a game. It's terrible for the sport of baseball because baseball is on the up and up. With the implementing of the pitch clock, it's been better than ever. People are tuning into baseball games. They're watching the World Series, the postseason. It's really fun. But the best part about baseball, you get to watch your stars, but the underdogs, the Tigers, the Gritty Tigs, they were the best underdog story in baseball. They went 38-11 in a 50-game span. That is insane. Just to barely make the playoffs. They beat the Astros, and they lose to Cleveland. And the same thing with Cleveland. They're a team that nobody thought would win the Central. The Central is supposed to be bad this year. Had 3 playoff teams. And then you had Cleveland go up against the big bad New York Yankees and do what everyone thought would happen. The Yankees had too much firepower. They had a better pitching staff because Cleveland's was decimated. And they just had the better players because they paid them. And I don't think it's fair to the small market teams because the small market teams are never going to be given a chance. So if you're a fan of Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Cleveland, any of these Sacramento now, you're never going to win anything. It's always going to be New York, whether it's the Mets or the Dodgers, and you got Juan Soto, a $750 million contract for 15 years, which is insane. It's always going to be the New York teams, the Los Angeles teams, except the Angels. The Angels just blow. I don't get how with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani you don't make it once. San Diego's on the up and up. You got Houston, who is a big market team. Boston. You're never going to be anything unless you're those teams. And I think that they need to implement a cap floor and a cap ceiling because without it, you're going to just keep letting the Dodgers sign the ghost of Babe Ruth. They're going to have Luke Gehrig coming from the dead and playing. It's not – they're going to have Mariano Rivera closing games. They're going to revive him and let him be in his 25 prime. It's not fair to the small market teams, and maybe it's just me complaining because I'm just a small market Tigers fan. And you got Eric's, who's Atlanta Braves. They're a big market team. That's another team who is they spend a lot of money, but they used to not be a big market team, and they actually developed all their players. That's one thing that I think Atlanta did well. They developed all of their talent through the draft and through international signings, and that's the only way you are going to beat top dollar teams. And it took Atlanta many, many years to finally win a World Series. They had the best, and then they had the best season after the World Series. They won 100 games plus. They got beat by the Phillies twice because the Phillies just spend and spend and spend. And that's how you win baseball games. If you spend $1 billion, you're going to win. If you just draft and develop, it's going to take you a while. And unless all your players are hits, you're not going to do anything.
Poetry in motion.
That's my baseball rant.
The man wanted to talk baseball.
That's the last time we're talking about baseball till March probably, so I had to make it count.
All I know is Tampa, just move to Montreal. You'll be all right. Become the Expos again. That's all I got to say. I think I'm changing my fanhood to the Cleveland Guardians simply so I can just rep the city of Cleveland. Might as well,
You're a Miami Heat fan. Why don't you just be a Cavs fan? They're pretty good right now.
Since we're on the topic, might as well switch wrap up
Yeah.
this episode talking about the NBA and its massive flaws. But we haven't addressed an elephant in the room quite some time.
Yeah, the Pistons are pretty good and in the 6th seed. They have the past 6 years. You want to know what the most wins the Pistons have gotten? 23.
Congratulations.
They're tied that now with 38 games left to go. Go on.
All right. So, the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler. Yeah. That is a situation. 7-game suspension, comes back from it and still has his beef with Pat Riley. And now he's suspended for 2 more games. And the trade deadline is coming up here in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so. I loved what Jimmy Butler did in Miami. He had the mentality of Heat culture. He really represented it proudly. But just heard that nice gulp from Spencer through the mic. It's time for him to go. It's time to rebuild. It's time to, well, not really rebuild. We never rebuild in Miami because they don't believe in rebuilding. But it's time to move on and just utilize Tyler Hero and go get Tyler Hero more pieces. Khalil Ware's a nice, young, talented kid out of Indiana. Jimmy Butler, you're a Houston Rocket, in my opinion. I don't know. There's 4 options you could go with. I mean, there's 4 teams he says he'd like to be traded to. It sounds like it's the Phoenix Suns, Dallas Mavericks, Golden State Warriors, and Houston Rockets. I don't know where he goes.
Definitely not Golden State.
Not Golden State.
I feel like none of those teams.
I feel like
except
Houston.
for maybe the
Dallas
Rockets.
would actually
maybe.
be pretty nice.
Dallas would be nice.
Luka, Jimmy,
Luka and
maybe.
Jimmy with
that'd be pretty good.
Clay. That'd be
Clay?
tough.
Yeah.
Houston would probably be. Just go to Texas. Just go to one of the Texas teams.
I think, yeah. To me, Dallas or Houston makes
Both
sense.
of them are in good setups.
But to me, I don't know why I like the Houston Rockets a lot for that fit. I feel like maybe we get Jalen Green or something in the trade because Jalen Green's kind of an oddball fit in Houston, even though he's a good talent.
Green.
I'm not saying we would, but
If
I'm
anybody,
just trying
if I
to,
get anybody off
know.
that team, I get Alperen Sengun.
Yeah.
We don't need Sengun.
But you guys already have Bam out of bio, who was supposed to be the MVP this year.
Hey, that was the worst take I think I've ever said in my life. Actually, no. We'll eventually get
Tennessee making the playoffs.
there. We'll get there. We'll get there at some point. But there's just an even broader topic about the NBA and just how the MLB is thriving. The NBA is not. It's not.
Nope.
And there's a lot of reasons why. A lot that I probably won't even talk about, but there's just so many. There's Game Pass, where locally you can't even watch your favorite teams most of the time. You have the Boston Celtics shooting 53s a game, with the other team shooting 35 or 40 themselves. So you have a solid 70 to 75% of your entire shots in the game from beyond the arc. You also have the officiating that sucks. No hand checks. So pretty much any contact's a foul. But when there is a lot of contact, they, for some reason, swallow their whistle. And because of that, there's no defense. And there's just a lot of other ones that I could go into. But what do we do to fix the NBA? It sucks. It's an awful product right now.
I don't. They tried with the. Like, what do you think about
In-season
the
tournament?
Yeah, what do you think about the in-season?
I think it's
tournament?
cool.
Stupid.
It's
Yeah.
stupid.
It is the stupidest thing in the world.
There has to be
tried.
some kind of incentive for it, but there isn't really an incentive besides making more money. There's no other reason for it. If they made it be like, oh, the winner gets an automatic home bid in the playoff, regardless of what
then
happens.
a team can just take off. Like they can just not try the rest of the season because they'll
gotta be-
automatically be a home
I agree.
playoff
So
team.
maybe move it a little later on into the year instead of in December.
I just think it's stupid.
What the NBA needs to do, one of the things,
Just
they
dissolve the league.
not dissolve the league. They do not need to dissolve the league. They need to have Christmas Day mean something again. And it doesn't anymore because the NFL's completely overtaken it. So what you do is you make Christmas Day opening day. You cut the season down and have Christmas Day be your first day of basketball.
First day.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
First
think
day?
people will
I don't
care
know
because
about that.
there'll be week like 15 NFL football on. You gotta. The big thing
I
for
know.
me is you just gotta tell Roger Goodell to screw off. I mean,
Well, you do got to tell
Yeah,
Roger Goodell to
because
screw up,
the
but they also got to
NBA
promote it better. They
the-
don't promote it.
they don't because they know they're not gonna get as much views as the NFL. The NFL had
Maybe they
two-
should try.
You know the best-
They don't try.
The funniest thing is, it was two of the worst games. The Chiefs, Steelers, and then it was Texans and Ravens. They weren't they both on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yep.
They
of
both
them.
were on a streaming service. They have to buy one, and two, they were terrible games, and tons of more people watched that than NBA Christmas Day. To me, the NBA has a load management problem.
That too.
I got Joel Embiid just hanging out in Cancun. Meanwhile, the 76ers are having one of the worst years they've had in a while, which I thought they'd win the East because of the talent they had. I didn't take into the fact that Joel Embiid just going to quit on the team. Paul George is going to play like a pumpkin, and Tyrese Maxey's not going to have any help on this team. You don't know who's playing. half the time.
Podcast P. Why don't you come on the Ball and Beats podcast and we can discuss why you are a podcaster and not a basketball star?
The thing is like, and then you got Golden State, who Curry and Draymond are like, we don't want to play tonight. They'll play in Detroit one night, and they'll not play in Indiana the next night because they just don't feel.
By
like
the way,
it.
Joel Embiid hasn't played in Denver in like 6 seasons, so
Load management.
that's something to watch
and the
out
thing,
for.
you never have
Shout
load,
out Jokic.
You never
Shout out
have load
Jokic.
management in the NFL. You never have load management in the, especially in the NHL. And you don't have load management in MLB. And the MLB is 162 games. The NBA is a problem with their players. Their players look like they're not trying half the time. They're not promoting their young stars. Their young stars are all European stars. You got Victor Wembanyama. You got Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic. All these great European, players that they need to promote more. And they need to promote their American players as well as Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is in the T-Wolves not having a great
Or
year.
your
but having a
Canadian
good
player
year.
and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Exactly. They need to promote their players because they're not. The NFL does a great job at promoting their best players. That's why the Chiefs are playing on literally everything. They promote Patrick Mahomes. We make fun of it, but that's what gets the NFL views.
Yes.
It's definitely.
And the NBA has an issue with that, and it's just like half the time you don't know who's playing. You'll be playing the Sixers. Joel Embiid is playing or not. Who knows? His left toenail hurts, or his elbow is a little sore from something. I don't know. His eyebrow, got wax and it ripped off. It doesn't feel good or something. I don't know, man. It's
he's got a blood blister.
These injury reports are ridiculous, but
I swear their injury reports are the worst across any league.
Oh, my foot hurts. What happened with your foot? Oh, nothing. Oh, my
I stubbed my toe earlier.
I hit my funny bone on the way to. I hit my funny bone on the court. It's still ringing a little bit. It don't feel good. I can't play tonight. This is a big game. Too bad. It's the stupidest thing. Load management's an issue in the NBA, and that's why nobody watches it. Is because I'm seeing these no names play instead of Joel Embiid or Steph Curry or not Draymond. Draymond's terrible now. You got players, and then you had like Giannis for the longest time not play, and the Bucks were doing bad. Now he's playing and they're doing good. The NBA just has an issue with their players. They have an issue with promoting. They have an issue with their players. So, there's my rant about basketball. I got to rant about every sport. I just realized that.
This man,
I can rant to you about hockey, but that'd bore people.
Next episode, we're gonna rant about cricket and rugby. Besides, I didn't even really rant about Miami. I thought I was, but I just can't waste the energy.
They're still They're still in the playoffs, right?
They're 9th seed. They're 21-21.
They're mid.
Yeah.
That means the Pistons are better than the Miami Heat right now. We're in the time space. On that note, you see this one more time for the people. One more time for the people. You see this?
23-21.
This, just ball it up again. It's in the trash. Just because.
Cleveland plays in Detroit next year. The final score is going to be 59-0. I don't know what quarterback, whether it's Jameis, whether Deshaun Watson on no legs is going to come back. He's going to be playing on a wheelchair, or if we're going to have Cam Ward or
Paul
Shedeur
Pierce
Sanders.
is going to be wheeled out as my quarterback and might do better than any of them.
Tim Couch out of retirement.
Tim Couch. Nah, I realistically, our quarterback is going
Cody
to be
Kessler.
Kevin Hogan.
Kevin Hogan.
That's going to wrap up episode 124 of the Ball and Beats podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the push notification bell to stay up to date on all new videos. Go watch us also on Spotify. Follow the Instagram and TikTok. You can listen to us also on Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more. Spencer, your Lions blow. They will never win again. And it's been a pleasure. Anthony.
Whatever you want to say.
Yes, sir. You know what? Still love you, Anthony. Go Lions, right?
Thank you. Appreciate
You know who my favorite owner of all time is? Art Modell. I love Art Modell and what he did for the city of Baltimore. He won them Super Bowls.
We don't care about Art Modell. It's time to go. Wrapping up. Thank you, everybody. Take care. We'll see you guys next week, and we're going to discuss more about why the Detroit Lions are the worst franchise in the history of sports. Good night. Peace out.